Today we're going to talk about twin flames, what's currently happening. For a while it's been nothing, nothing really happening. I mean, nothing really grandiose happening with them. Um, but the last couple weeks have been very interesting. I've been noticing that even in like a lot of the general groups, there's been twin flame questions popping up. In fact, my twin and I have been talking, which doesn't happen very often. I had a download last night about opening the keys to open the Akashic Records to help with soul retrieval pieces, and this will all work in to what I'm about to talk to you about. But so I was just something, especially with we have retrograde happening, we have this big like super moon happening, just crazy things. But there is actually important twin flame stuff happening right now, and so I wanted to go over that with you guys because you're gonna need to be in the know for this. So I was pulling some cards, and I will link all these cards together for you guys. I wanted to know what has the divine masculine been doing, or what's the transition, because I was laying awake in bed I don't know, a week or so ago, maybe a couple weeks, and I felt this like crazy shift of energy, and I knew at that moment that something had shifted in the twin sphere. When that energy change hit, I knew that it was like a major twin flame thing, not just for us, but for everyone who's working with their twins. So this card came out for what the masculine has been working on. And soul retrieval, deep healing. I actually wrote all kinds of stuff out. So take note of like the colors in here. So we have blues, pinks, purples, yellows, right? Those are like the main colors, because I pulled, like if you work with rocks, crystals, things like that, those are the colors that you are going to want to pull if you're doing grids, working with any sort of twin flame stuff. So check this out. This is a brand new deck that I'm working with. Pinks, Angelite Spiritual Religious Community. Just getting it together on different planes. Look at that pink card, pink and purple. And then you have the third eye open, the Dolomite, and that stay strong in your faith. A lot of twins are having problems. I mean, it's not easy, let's face it. Like you don't ask for a twin relationship if you want like an easy peasy ride, then you want a soulmate relationship. You can just enjoy each other's company. Those are soulmate relationships. Those are what you want. If you want to work really hard and have a lot of doubts about yourself and do deep inner work and deep connection work, that's when you have a twin flame relationship. So stay strong, right? Changes are happening, and they're going to be pretty massive. So here you go, like the blue flame, the violet flame, and spiritual protection. This is something else we're going to get into, all dealing with Cirrus. And there's been a lot of Cirrus energy, like, oh my goodness. I just did a download about the holiday season, and that was all Cirrus. When I recorded it, I was speaking the language, the galactic language, and out of nowhere, like there was like a pyramid on my eye. It was just really strange. I haven't uploaded that video yet, but I will. So it's been very Cirrus-y for quite a while now, and a lot of other light workers and light language speakers, galactic speakers, have noticed this as well. So this one is the blue. Okay. Let yourself sparkle and shine. And this talks about guiding to be bold and show the bigger than life side to the world. And that's when you guys are going to come together, because there's stuff you have to work on now. Before, you were working in separate capacities, working on yourself, inside yourself. But now you have a mission that you have to come together for. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. So this one, life lessons. And we have the greens and the blues and the purples, and it's all in there. So when you look at this card, right? This is the card for the masculine, what he was working on, and you can see all of those colors coming through. And so let's talk a bit about the soul retrieval card, okay? So this is what the divine masculine is coming out of right now, a pretty massive change that he's been going through. You know, to actually self-reflect and start picking up the pieces that were lost in various incarnations, the pieces that he doesn't want to admit, the pieces that are going to make him whole. And once he realizes this, you know, big changes are going to happen. So I made a whole bunch of notes to try and keep us on track here. So this is what can be called as the dark night of the soul, where you go in and you pick up all your pieces, you put them back together. It's massive work. It's a lot of shadow work. It's massive. So the fact that the divine masculine has been doing this and has been coming out of it. And so he is, as you can see, okay, if you look at this, you can see the circle, it's whole. He's putting his pieces back together. He's understanding where things in the past where he didn't want to admit to himself, or he knew or had feelings but couldn't describe them, or didn't know why he was having these connections. He's now able to admit some things that he wasn't able to in the past. He's now able to move forward. This is what I have written down. Balancing human and spiritual learning, how to find his pieces that were lost in previous incarnations, now allowing him for once to go inside and heal. The trauma of the new and the old, restoring wellness, energy and power, opening of his gifts. And so in my personal experiences, you know, I know a lot about his past lives. We've been together for a lot of them, but even some that we haven't been. He's had a lot of trauma, and even in this current incarnation, when we're working together or when we've been together, you know, trying to combine the masculine and feminine and balance everything, there's been trauma. Like, we've done it to each other, and so. Now it's time to balance this from the past and in this current incarnation on this timeline. And by doing this, he is now coming into powers or abilities or new concepts to him that were hidden or pushed aside. And this is really massive. And so if you haven't been in contact with your twin for a while, this is why. Like, the divine feminine has been doing her own thing, but it's been allowing him his space to go into himself and to get those pieces. And, you know, she's had to do that, and she knows the work that's involved. And so just giving him that space and allowing him to come to his own realizations has really helped. He's now making peace with the past, which is so important because you can't, there's no way you can reach a balance with the masculine and the feminine if both of your past pieces are not put together. And so now the fact that he's making peace with the past allows more steps into the future, or allows more steps into the present, which weren't able to happen before. And that's where a lot of you guys have felt stuck. You know, like, this isn't going anywhere, or you know, not necessarily that you're even looking for a romantic relationship, even though some twins do, but just like steps moving forward to just have a common ground, you know, to be able to be close in a platonic way, knowing that they're a piece of you and they're going to always be a piece of you, and just having that understanding. So now he can take the steps to move forward. So the other things with calling back his soul, a lot of this has been under lock and key for so long for the masculine. Like, he's refused to accept that there can be something else besides the here and now. You know, that there's so much more to him. He's not just here in the human now. There's a lot of other things happening at the same time, which in the past, he wasn't able to conceptualize. He just wasn't ready for that, even to deal with past lives. By doing this, by unlocking the mysteries of his soul, by unlocking those bits and pieces of him that he lost along the way and putting them back together, he is starting to return himself to being whole. And this is huge. This is absolutely huge. So this means new energy coming in. This means new realizations, new possibilities, new acceptances. And so once the masculine soul becomes whole, kind of like the Isis and Osiris, where Osiris's pieces are getting put back together, he's now going to be able to forgive himself, forgive the divine feminine. So the fact that he's now making some realizations about this is very, very important. And so by forgiving himself, he's allowing himself to reclaim his power and accepting the feeling of incompleteness, which before wouldn't happen. You know, a lot of the times the divine feminine knows the divine masculine better than the divine masculine knows himself. And so the divine feminine brings up these questions, or she'll say things like, well, you know, you are this way. And then in a moment where the divine masculine is in touch with his heart and his soul, he will say, you know me better than I know my own self. Or he'll say things like, you know, now that I finally found myself, thanks to you. And so this is all being combined and magnified now that he's understanding. He's getting on the bandwagon, you know, by accepting the feelings of incompleteness within himself and starting to forgive himself. He's being able to release what hampered the communication between the twins. And so now new communications and learning can happen. And this starts the new concept of unconditional love. This is what the main theme is about here, unconditional love. So that was what the divine masculine is currently going through. And look at, like, you can see where, like, he's reaching into the like the light is there, you know, almost like this is darkness, darker. And that by doing these things, he's reaching up to the light. The light is coming in to him, illuminating him, preparing him. So then we wanted to know what the divine feminine had been up to this whole time. And again, look at these colors. You see the purples? You see the blues? So the divine feminine has been working on the Chariot of Ascension. So the Merkaba is a vehicle of transcendent light that is a combination of sacred geometry, and it allows you to travel, protection, travel, like all this stuff. And as you can see here, the divine feminine is working on sacred geometry as well, and procuring that violet flame, which we just so happen to have here. Spiritual protection. That's, again, involved in the Merkaba. And here's more violet too, with the staying strong in the faith. So while the masculine has been putting his pieces back together, the divine feminine has been working on the Chariot of Ascension, working on the light body, working on the healing and communicating on higher levels, and focusing on what is truly inside her heart, clearing the past rocks, just like the divine masculine was, but on a different level. She is actually preparing a vehicle for both the souls to come together into the divine light. So as she's working on this and she's allowing things to clear, he's allowing things to clear, she is working on the alignment of self. And the only way you can work on a Merkaba is to have all your pieces gathered and yourself aligned and energies balanced. So she is learning to work on a higher spiritual sphere, while she's doing this, she is preparing the vehicle, the Merkaba, for both of the souls to come together. She's learning how to use it, what the Merkaba can be used for, and she is learning how to have restraint. And this is the portion that we were talking about with her allowing the divine masculine to just be in his own space for a while. Let him on his own journey, and then knowing when the time is right to have the energies come together again for some more work. So by focusing on herself, the love, the sense of service, and the sense of service could mean many things, but in this case, it means loving yourself and loving your twin enough to just let him do his own thing, let him be in his own sphere. Knowing that that is always there, that love is always there. It's not going to leave, so she doesn't have to constantly be pestering him to do work or to work on the dynamic of the twin, because it's there, and when the time is right, it will happen. There will be work done. And so this was part of her realization, and by realizing this, realizing that everything works in divine timing, and as long as she is full in herself, she's taking care of herself, she's putting in the work for herself, that by doing all she can do for herself, she's actually helping her twin. If your twin is a mirror of you, you know, even though you're giving your twin a break, the work that you're putting into yourself is actually being mirrored back to the twin. And in doing this, she's able to focus on different dimensions, higher frequencies, and start to prepare ahead for that vehicle of the ascension of the Merkaba. And so now, this is where it comes to a head. This is where we're going to jump into the new frequencies. Okay, and this is where I felt the shift. What has happened since the shift? Remember, this is what the male was working on. This is what the female was working on. Since I felt that shift, now, even though where there was no communication, there's communication. And it may be brief. I've noticed that a lot of people are saying, you know, we're finally communicating after such a long absence. Or this one woman said, he actually accepted my friendship on Facebook when I friended him, and now I'm trying to figure out what to write to him. And, you know, so I think there's a lot of that going on, a lot of starting to communicate. This is where we are right now. So going into December, it's going to get really crazy. This preparation that you guys have done is so important. And if you don't remember this preparation as you work together, look at this. Male, female, together. And here's the triangle. Now it's going to be time where you guys are going to be asked to put everything you have learned in your separate spheres together, to work together, to help one another, to show your unconditional love, show what you've learned. If you guys can do that, the Divine Feminine has already prepared the Merkaba for when both of these souls come together and unite as one. Now, with this said, if you look at the colors, again, we have the blue, we have the green, we have the yellows and the golds. This is the Temple of Black Obsidian. This is what you guys are going to expect in December. I'm not saying this is going to be easy, but you guys have been prepared with the tools to navigate it, okay? And if you are patient with one another, if you show unconditional love, you guys can do it. You can do it together because you're going to have to work together. In December, you're going to be going through the Temple of Black Obsidian together. And it's a brand new venture into a healing chamber. It's going to be an adventure or a test that you guys are going to have to do together. If your ego kicks in, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And this is going to be the biggest test of your ego. both of your egos. So here we go. The task is not to confront each other in duality, but to integrate what you both have just learned into working together in unconditional love. You're going to take the courage in both hands and journey within to meet your own dark self. Finish this healing together as communication and unconditional love. You will have joined into one. You're going to have to put ego aside, show your unconditional love, show your patience, show what you've learned, be open, talk about things, open your heart up, because this is where you're going to meet your deepest, darkest fears of self. And the only way you're going to get through it is if you work together. Because like I said, the divine feminine tends to know the divine masculine a little bit better than the divine masculine knows himself. And the divine masculine knows the feminine better than she knows herself. So this is where it's called on for you to integrate yourselves together as one, to help each other and to learn. And so once you're joined and you're working together as one, you need to bring love, acceptance, and light into the relationship and the world. And this will happen. If you guys could do it, this is what's going to happen. You're going to bring love, acceptance, and light into your relationship together. And think of how bright that light is going to shine for the world. And we need that right now. We really, really need that right now. The temple is a test. It's a place of honesty, raw love, and healing that is going to be truly profound and long-lasting. There's going to be a deep relief and a transformation that can only occur if you've integrated your other selves, integrated your steps along the way. Your separate journeys up until now are going to be integrated into one. This is going to bring up the truths that you've never wanted to admit to yourself or to your twin. This is stuff that you have been avoiding for fear of condemnation. The biggest thing that they're going to face together is to have their own willingness to love and to accept all parts of each of them, right? Because your twin is a reflection of yourself. And so this is doing shadow work. But this is not doing shadow work by yourself. This is doing shadow work with your twin and actually integrating it all into one. So the trick that you guys are going to have to gracefully navigate is to present the feminine shadow to the masculine, and the masculine is going to have to present the masculine shadow to the feminine. And they're going to have to do it in a loving, unconditional way where there can be acceptance and there can be healing, because that's the key. You're both going to confront parts of the ego that were previously denied. And those that complete the task are going to integrate more of themselves together. I'm not saying this is going to be the last task. For some it will. For some, this is going to be it. If you guys could do this, then you're going to integrate, and it's going to be awesome, whatever type of relationship you choose. There is going to be more freedom, more power for both of you. I mean, the masculine just came into this brand new idea of power, so it's going to take him a little time to get used to it. So even though this is coming, Divine Feminine, don't be pushing this. It's going to come in the divine timing. Okay, and so I'm just trying to get you guys ready for this, because this is what's happening. This is why you guys are starting to communicate. This is going to produce a wholeness between you that either hasn't been seen in a long time or that never was, and it's going to be brand new for you guys. With this new wholeness, things that previously seemed impossible, even as simple as being honest, or wanting to send a text and nervous to send a text. Things like that are just going to fade. And you're going to have a better understanding of each other, a better connection. You have to remember that these dark chambers, all shadow work always leads to the light. So even though this is going to be hard, this is going to be very hard, not going to be easy, but together you guys can do it. I mean, I know for a fact that when my twin and I were on the same vibrational level, we do that in astral now, like we can be on the same vibrational level in astral, but in the physical 3D, when we were on the same vibrational level, We could do anything. We were capable of doing anything, and nothing could stop us. And so that is what's going to happen if you guys can complete this. So you guys are going to go through the dark chamber to lead into the light, but you're going to have to trust that your twin has your back in unconditional love. You're going to have patience. You are going to have to understand that you are going to be faced with your worst enemy of yourself or of your twin. And together you guys are going to show each other light and love and trust and faith. And you're going to show each other just how capable you can be when you merge and work on that same vibrational level. When you open yourselves up, when you're not afraid of what the other twin is going to say or think, or that the other twin isn't going to reciprocate, what you're putting out. When those things diminish, that's when the magic can happen. And that's when anything that you guys ever thought was possible with being a twin or knowing your twin or working with your twin comes to fruition. So transmute it with unconditional love and patience. And in order to succeed, remember, non-judgment, compassion, acceptance, unconditional love. And that's why the masculine just went through this dark soul, of the night. And that's why the feminine, so he worked. I mean, he worked for you, right? He's and for himself, because it's all connected, but he's working on putting his pieces back together and having these realizations of how this actually all is. And the divine feminine is waiting and preparing and working on the Merkaba, the divine light vehicle that's going to happen when they connect. So wonderful things are happening, but together you've done your homework, right? Together you have one last challenge that you guys have to do, and you can totally do it. You can totally do it. The time is now. And we need the connections of the twin flames and the energy and the vibration more so than ever. Right now, it's really, really important that we send healing vibrations and healing love to Gaia, to all the political stuff that's going on. As light workers and stuff, we don't want to focus on that, because that's negative, right? You don't want to focus on that. But you have to understand what's going on in order to be able to transmute it with love, right? So transmute it with love. Work with your divine twin flame in love and patience. And together, you guys are going to get to the Merkaba that the divine feminine has prepared. I wanted to know what was going to happen before, during, and after. And so this was the before, the during, and the after card, and this is solitude. So it makes perfect sense. Before, you guys were both in your separate corners, right? You were both in solitude, working on your own preparation for the whole, all right? Then during, there are going to be times of solitude because you're going to need patience, right? You're going to need patience. And without that patience, without that solitude to think things over, to remember what you've learned in your last tests or your last schooling, then only then can you come together. After you guys come together, then you can be together in the solitude. So if you notice the colors, right? Notice that green and the blue. Here it is. Also, notice the roof. The roof is a pyramid. Notice the moon, okay? And we're going to get into this here in just a second. So I asked what's going to happen during. Look at this. Ride the wave. And so, again, blue and green. The dolphins are connected with Sirius. And it's also connected with, obviously, water. But this is huge. This is absolutely huge. If you notice, there's two, right? You have the divine feminine, the divine masculine riding that wave. And that's what you guys are going to have to do right now. And so when all is said and done, here it is, right here, the Golden Palace. And we have, very interesting, 3, 4, 5. 4, 5. And here's the beginning. Here's the 4. right? So you're working with 4 energies and 5 energies. Also, when you look at the dolphins, okay, the dolphins are connected to Sirius. Sirius is connected with Egypt. Okay, keep that in mind. See the triangle here? Masculine, feminine, and together as one. Masculine, feminine, together as one. And again, you have the greens and the purples. And here you have three phases of the moons, or 3 different planets, 3 different systems. So however you want to do this, Sirius A, Sirius B, and Sirius C. Divine feminine, divine masculine, and together as one. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of information about how all these cards relate to one another. When you look at the water, I mean, we have water. A lot of this is water. And when you think about your arsenal, right, you know, what you've learned, what you're going to take with you, if you're familiar with water at all, water takes on the properties of what you say to it, or the energy that you give out to it. Think of the water as your divine counterpart. Remember how the rice project worked. If you say mean things, the rice molded. If you didn't say anything at all, if you were stagnant, it kind of sort of molded eventually. If you said wonderful things, it thrived. And so remember to do that with your twin, right? Remember, water takes on whatever you give it, whatever you put into it. So while you are drinking water, while you are working with your twin, just remember, if the body is all water, remember to say loving things, remember to give off loving energy, compassion. Also, when we think of Sirius and we think of Egypt, we have all these wonderful cards here that all talk about going along with the goddess Isis and going through these initiations, or these tests. And when we look at this Merkaba, it looks like a star, right? When you think of Sirius, you think of dolphins, right? Dolphins, water. When we look at Sirius, it's blue and white. It's associated with the goddess Isis, which I talked about the deck. The deck is a goddess Isis deck. So her Sirian energy helps bring in the floods for the Nile. And so here we are again with water. And when they see the star Sirius, they know that it's going to be summer, that there's going to be a rebirth. It's going to be very hard work, because think about it, everything's flooded. But with hard work, planting and tending, just like the twins, right? A twin flame relationship is not easy. You have to work at it. You have to care for it. You have to plant it and tend to it. Then wonderful things happen, this rebirth and wonderful harvests. And this is where we are right now, you guys. We're at a harvest. Like we've put in the work. You have one more hard journey to do together, but you're doing it together this time. You're not doing it separately. So that's it. Like, you're so close. You are so close, and the rewards are going to be amazing. The harvest is going to be amazing. This is also connected. Sirius is also connected with Osiris, and as you know, Isis traveled around, put his parts together, and this is the divine masculine. His parts are coming together, right? Oh, so the temples were always built in alignment to Sirius, and so with Sirius showing, it's the beginning of the new year. And this is it. This is a brand new cycle for you guys, for twins. So December is going to be pretty awesome. You guys are going to have to work together. You know, it's not going to be easy, but the communication is going to be there. You just have to open up to one another. The other thing I thought was interesting about the Sirius connection with all this Egyptian and Syrian energy, and the temples and the initiations and all this stuff you guys are going through right now, is that Sirius is linked with Anubis, and Anubis represents unfailing protection, safe passages from one realm to the next, and so you guys are protected. You know, you are protected. And the one thing that is going to serve the most protection for you is your unconditional love and your willingness to be open and to trust the other and to hold hands through this whole thing. I mean, that's what you're going to have to do. And so Anubis and his unfailing protection and safe passage from one realm to the next, and that's what's happening. This right here, we're two separate realms in one because you are both working on them at the same time. Safe passage into the next realm. Well, here you go. Here's the next realm. So stick with it, and blessings.